Okay, we're coming to the valuable open microphone session. This is the opportunity to raise any issues we haven't discussed, any follow-up that people didn't get a chance to put in. We have one of these. We actually do one at the end of each day in case someone wants to address the community. This is their opportunity. And I recognize the mics is open, and the back middle mic, our esteemed General Counsel, Steve Ryan.
Thank you. So I just want to reemphasize how we do things here. We really need to be careful about using the names of other companies when we discuss public policy problems, that we don't use the names as euphemisms for a category of companies, that you can talk about large companies and you can talk about hosting companies, you can talk about cloud companies, but I'd prefer that people not use their names as we do that. Remember, everything here is an industry meeting that's permitted to do what we do, standard setting, deciding policy. And in order to keep that safe, we just have to be careful how we do it. And you do this very, very well. Just a reminder at the end of the day of how we'll conduct ourselves tomorrow. Right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Steve. Center front mic.
Hi, Chris Woodfield, Salesforce ARIN AC. During the discussion of the last policy proposal, it occurred to me that we did the informational roll call vote, which is a standard. Do you support the policy as written?
Yeah.
Do you not support the policy as written? How often, if ever, have we done similar roll call votes with different questions about policies? Like, for example, I was thinking to myself during the last show of hands was, could we have had a roll call vote asking the room if anyone agreed with the intent of the policy, but if more work was done to figure out what would have happened, what would have done with the return space, as opposed to just putting it in the V6 transition pool. That's just an example.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if there's any room in our procedure for more not just for or against policy as written roll call votes in this room.
As it turns out, there's 20 years of ARIN videos online. And some of them, if you knew which year to look and which meeting, you'd see me saying to someone point blank, no, you're not going to call that question for a vote because it hasn't been discussed. So I asked the AC, if you want to poll on some other matter, put it in your slides so that the chair or the vice chair knows, but also so the people can have discussed it. If the question is, would you rather see this policy with a /18 than a /16 in this sentence, ask people, let's talk about just that. Do you like 16 over 18? And have a discussion about that. And then it's easy to ask, regardless of whether the policy moves forward, let's talk about, should the text say 16 or 18? What gets complicated is when you haven't done that setup in the discussion, and then you get to the end and you ask for a show of support, because then someone says, well, wait, are we saying 16 or don't adopt, or are we saying 18 or abandon, or what's the permutation matrix? So if you wish to have a discussion and poll about something specifically, happy to do it. I asked the AC shape that in their slides so that we can specifically talk about that and we know what A and B is. Because otherwise, doing it on an ad hoc basis, I guarantee you some people raising their hand do not know, or different people raising their hand have a different view of what it is they're supporting when you do it on an ad hoc basis.
So the answer is yes, we could do that, but we could not do that on an ad hoc basis.
Well, not unless you want to have a particular discussion and you want to have the discussion and then do a show of support on a clear question.
Okay, thank you.
Got it? Okay, thank you. Far Mike.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. I just wanted to speak to what Chris brought up here. When it was tried, it failed miserably.
Yeah.
Consistency on recommended questions are critical for the community. They're critical for me. I know what I'm going to be asked. Yes, no, move it forward. And there needs to be discussion, not random anonymous voting on random anonymous questions that confuse the community as much as the reason why it was brought up was because the policy was confusing as well. So when it was done, I found it was actually worse than just having a good discussion and furthering it till it could be voted on for a yes or a no.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rear mic?
I think, well, thanks.
Rear
Lee
mic.
Lee Howard, IPv4 Global. To exactly that question, I know that we have in the past, I would like to suggest that for draft policies, so the things that the AC is only beginning to discuss, that maybe an appropriate question in every case is, all right, this isn't the final version maybe, but even if you oppose, should we continue work in this area?
Right.
We have done that question.
That's common. That's actually, quite frankly, on non-recommended policies that are in draft, the most common question is it worth continuing work on this, or should we adopt it? Now, even that, you just asked 2 questions. So we generally ask people to just ask one. Should the AC abandon work on this? Because that's very clear. If you get an affirmative across that, that's clear guidance to them.
Yep.
And so that's the more common question asked. I don't think, it's not the end of the world that it wasn't asked. And sometimes the AC comes to its own conclusion based on discussion on the list that policy side is called for and either merges or kills off one.
That's why we elect 15 smart people to the AC, yes.
Right. Center front microphone.
Hello, my name is Betty Foster. I'm a fellow for the first time here. I want to thank the organization of ARIN for everything, and particularly we have a really proud team. They are welcoming all fellows. So I have just a remark as a new in ARIN area about the PPML list, member list, because we receive a lot of information, and I observe as a newbie, someone new in this organization, that people speak a lot, that can have a domination on the information, on what is about some proposal. And some people couldn't propose something different because they are in a minority, or maybe they say, maybe what I can propose is not correct because the majority of people who talk a lot say something. So I suggest to maybe to think a way for the evolution of the PPML list, because this is a good idea to prepare policy before, but it's so messy for me, and particularly my mother tongue is French and Creole, and so it's really hard to follow every policy.
Right, understood. So I want to comment on that because that's a great point. We do use English as our primary language here, and that requires, for some cases, that people understand it's important for us to go fairly slow, even when people have passionate ideas, to let people speak slowly so other people can work. But it also means that we need to take the time to explain ourselves, because a lot of times this policy materials, it's not that it's complicated itself, it's because the people in the room already know so much, we've been doing it for so long. So I do ask people, take the time to explain why you're saying what you're saying, whether when you come to a mic with a comment, be explicit. Don't just say what you're saying, but say, I'm saying this and that's why I'm against the policy. A lot of the people in the room know if you're speaking and you say something, they can interpret whether you're for or against. We ask people, be clear and say your reasoning, because again, it's not easy for everyone. Excellent point. Center rear mic.
Rob Seastrom, ARIN AC's packet host, and speaking on my own behalf. Thank you very much for open microphone at the end of the first day. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it. It is, I've characterized open microphone as agenda bashing for the hallway track. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate having one at the end of the first day, which has not always been the case.
Understood. Thank you. On that point, open microphone remains open, including remote people, but I'm going to close it shortly. Don't want to dominate the evening with open microphone. If you have a matter, approach the mics and speak, and because I'm closing them shortly. Remote participant, yes.
Nick Key. I want to encourage the idea of amending policy to make leasing IPv4 numbers possible without the number's owner losing total control of their block. It would make the market more dynamic and safer for possible bad actors.
Okay,
Safer
interesting.
from possible bad actors.
Got it. Something for people to think about and either get together and work on policy for? Oh, yes, go ahead.
If I can speak to that last
Yeah.
point from the remote participant, nobody owns the numbers they are assigned.
Right. Let's actually cover that briefly. So, integers are integers. You can configure your routers with what you configure them, but there is a registry, and when people are issued address blocks, we associate their name with an entry in the registry, and it's been that way since the dawn of time. And it's the fact that you're in the registry that makes it important, because it means other people aren't in the registry for the same numbers, and hopefully therefore aren't configuring their routers that way. We only control the registry. That's what we control. It's been called the Internet Registry for years and years. And you are cooperating with everyone on these rules, and you have this cooperative registry. And as a result of that, the most important thing is that you have to participate in those rules to make it valuable. That's the policies that you develop. But at the end of the day, all you get is the rights that you're provided to. We provide you a contract that's explicit with the rights to be associated with the entry. In terms of ownership, I'm not sure there's any, the term ownership is really meaningful. But if people want to discuss that, feel free to find me. People who have rights to numbers, that's what we talk about. You're the address holder, you're the rights holder. Feel free to use that language. And you can sell rights. We have a transfer market to sell those rights. But ownership is a strange term when applied to address blocks. Certainly you have rights to address blocks, and you have the right to sell them, and that's all called out in policy. So thank you. I'm going to close the mics. Open mic is closed. Thank you, everyone.